What's good, everybody? Is when I come back at y'all with another video. So this video, I want to share a story that will change your perspective on life. It will change your perspective on how you view events, either events that just unfold or events that happen in your life or may directly affect you, right? It'll help change your perspective so you can see things differently, right? Differently from the masses and from how most people collectively view events, right? So this is about a Taoist farmer, right? And so I'm going to read out the story and then explain it to you all in detail, right? So there's a story, there's a Taoist story of an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years. One day his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbor came to visit, and his neighbor said, "Such bad luck." The neighbor said sympathetically, "Maybe," the farmer replied. The next morning, the horse returned, bringing with it 3 other wild horses. "How wonderful," the neighbors exclaimed. "Maybe," replied the farmer. The following day, his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses, was thrown to the ground, and broke his leg. The neighbors again came to offer their sympathy for what they called his misfortune. "Maybe," answered the farmer. The day after, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army. Seeing that the farmer's son's leg was broken, they passed by him. They passed him by, I should say. The neighbors congratulated the farmer on how well things had turned out. "Maybe," said the farmer. So, the purpose of this story is to explain to you guys, first and foremost, how mysterious and how coincidental events happen, how everything somehow, some way are all interconnected. Everything in the universe, everything in the world, right? Because events can happen that seem unrelated, but are in fact all connected. And they're all working in mysterious ways to deliver you something or to give you what you want or what you ask for, right? Think about it. If this was like a farmer back then who only had one horse, the horse somehow, some way runs away. And so the neighbor hears about this and immediately labels it as a misfortune, as a bad event. The farmer doesn't want to label that event as a bad event because even though it happened, right, most people would immediately label this as a bad event, as a tragedy, as this and that, right? They'll label it as a in the bad bucket. The neighbor said maybe, right, because he doesn't know, right? The event itself happened, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, right? And then after the horse left, right, the horse came back with several other wild horses. So just imagine being in a farm, only having one horse, right? You're a lot more limited as far as what you can do, right? But now having multiple horses at the farm, it can make your life easier because now you can multiply the labor given that you have more horses. So that seemingly bad event ended up working out in their favor, right? Now, the next event that happened was that the son tried to get on one of the wild horses, fell off, and broke his leg. It seems like a very bad event on the surface because now your son has a broken leg. The only problem, quote unquote problem, is that you don't have the full context. And the full context was that the farmer didn't want his son to get drafted, right? Because he didn't want his son to be at risk of getting injured at war or losing a life, whatever. But when the event happened of the broken leg, most people will label it as a bad event. How could something so bad happen to your son? Only for the army to show up the next day, gathering as many men as they could to go to war. But seeing that the farmer's son was injured with a broken leg, he couldn't fight in the army. And so they left, right? So the farmer was able to still be with his son and keep his son and not have to send his son off to war. So this story is shared to first have you realize that events that happen in life just are. They literally just are. They're not good or bad, they just are. It's we as humans, as people, that give it meaning or place it in buckets, either it being, good or bad, right? And for a lot of events that happen in a lot of people's lives, if it's not something that they expect or anticipated, they'll immediately label it as bad, because it's like, oh, something that I didn't expect to happen happened. When in actuality, it doesn't have to be that way. And what you need to realize is that you can also have everything work in your favor, which is explained in this story here. When the horse ran away, most people would label it as a bad event, but this farmer said, maybe, who knows? And it turned out to be good, because the horse came back with more wild horses. Same way with the son breaking the leg. In most cases, most people label it as a bad event because a less than ideal situation happened to the son. But you also didn't know, no one could have predicted that the army was going to come and recruit the son. And now, because the son couldn't go to the army, the farmer can now raise his son and live with his son. And that injury protected his son and could have potentially saved his son's life. You don't, oftentimes when events happen, you may not have all the context or all the information for why it's happening. So this is why you shouldn't, you don't have to place it in buckets anyways, but this is why you shouldn't necessarily be mad or frustrated when things happen, when life itself happen that may not go according to your plan or how things in your mind should be, right? Most people, if they're driving and out of nowhere they catch a flat tire, right? For most people, that is a very stressful, frustrating event, because they're thinking to themselves, why would something like this happen? And why would it happen to me? I have so many things I gotta do. I'm busy. This is gonna be just another obstacle that's gonna cost me money and, make me waste all this time and everything. But you don't know if the flat tire, when it happened, saved your life, right? You don't know if, had you not gotten that flat tire, you would have continued on your journey, and it could have led to some sort of event where you could have gotten hurt, right? You don't know if getting the flat tire in that moment saved your life. And you also know, say for example, you need to call roadside assistance, you need to get your car towed. You don't know if the person that's going to arrive to pick up your vehicle could end up being someone that you get along with and could end up being your best friend for the rest of your life, or if that person could end up being your next partner or your lover. Or you don't know if that person that's going to assist you roadside could end up being someone that you have a conversation with, that you found out is from your same town, that you eventually come to the realization that you were classmates with this person in first grade and you guys were really good friends, right? Like, something like that could happen. You just don't know. So this is why when events happen, you don't want to label them in buckets or good or bad, right? In this Taoist story, right? To be a Taoist is someone who, follows like the Chinese philosophy, and it seems like their philosophy is more so of just being indifferent and accepting what unfolds in your life. But the way I would approach it is to have excitement, to be excited, because when you can use everything in your life to your advantage, and nothing in life ever happens to you, it happens for you. It happens for your betterment, for your growth, for your improvement as a person, to give you the most fulfilling life possible. And so when you accept that, that's when life becomes magical, because when events happen, rather than being frustrated, you can smile and get excited, because when events are happening, that means something is happening. That means something is brewing, and you can use these events to your advantage. You don't need to label things as bad or see things as bad, because things are not necessarily that black and white of just being good or bad. But we as humans just want to place it in buckets so that we can just categorize it quickly, rather than accepting that things are not necessarily bad, right? Sometimes that quote unquote bad event is just you experiencing contrast so that you can get clear on what it is that you want, right? Or sometimes that bad event is actually an event that unfolded to help you get what it is that you've asked for, right? Think about it. Some of you guys might be driving whatever vehicle right now, but you probably have a dream car in mind. The only quote unquote problem is that you may only ever want one car at a time. You may not see the value in having 2, 3, 4 cars, right? If you only want one vehicle, that's perfectly fine. If that's what makes you happy, if you're only content with one vehicle because you only need one vehicle, that's great. If you're already driving a vehicle, but you have a dream vehicle that you always wanted, right? Like, this is the one. And then your car breaks down. You'll probably think that's something bad, right? Like, why would something like this happen to me? But didn't you say you wanted a dream car, right? Didn't you say you wanted one? So how do you expect to get that dream car if nothing ever happens to your current vehicle? If you always keep your current vehicle, how do you ever expect to get your dream car, right? What if something happening to your current vehicle was the first step or one of the last steps for you to then eventually receive your dream vehicle, right? Because if you're only driving one car at a time, something needs to happen to the old car for you to get the new car, right? It's the same idea with everything else in life, right? Sometimes life works in mysterious ways to help clear up space to then give you what it is that you asked for, right? The farmer didn't want the son to be part of the army because he didn't want to risk his son's life, and the universe had a mysterious way of injuring the son to prevent the son from being drafted. No one could have expected or anticipated that, right? But that's the beauty in life. This is why everything is connected. This is why everything is one. Everything in this planet is energy, and everything is working in harmony to deliver you what it is that you want and what it is that you ask for, right? Everything is operating perfectly with perfect timing. So when events happen in your life, don't be so quick to judge it and say it's bad, right? Because you can, just as quickly as you can find a reason for why something is bad, you can find a reason for why something's good. You can look at every situation, every event that happened in your life and find a positive in it. And if you've trained yourself and conditioned yourself to do that often, over and over and over, then that's when life becomes magical, because you'll realize that everything's working in your favor. And even if something happens that you may not understand in the moment, you can still relax knowing that at some point there's going to be an explanation for this event, right? That you can find something positive in the moment, but at some point there will be an explanation for why that event happened. And sometimes you just need to be patient. But if you're able to be positive and smile regardless of what's going on, that is when you have true power, and that's when you're invincible, because regardless of what happens in your life, you can still find the blessing in it. You can still use it to your advantage. So this is how you change your perspective on life, by changing your thinking of life, by changing your thinking of the events that unfold for you. Everything is working in your favor, guys. Everything. Even if you feel as though you're in a place that is undesirable and you're just like, man, I have a vision for my dream life, and where I'm at now is so far away from where my dream life is. That's okay. Why? Because the position that you're in and all the circumstances that you're experiencing and everything, whatever, that is just contrast. You just experienced events that you didn't want, right? So that you can develop your preferences of what it is that you do want. And you being in that position allowed you to be clear in your mind of what it is that you actually want to experience and have, and what you want to experience out of life. So it actually helped you, because a lot of people don't know they want abundance until they've experienced struggle, right? Then when you experience struggle, you're like, man, this ain't it. I want to feel free. So that's what allows people to desire wanting to feel free and abundant, right? It's because they experience hardship that let them want to experience abundance, right? So that is the moral of the story. The Tower story itself is to just embrace things and accept things as they are. But my version of the story is to use everything to your advantage, right? To still smile even when events unfold, whether they're good or bad, right? Because events just are. So you can assign it to the good bucket. You can still find the positive in it. You can still smile in the face of adversity, because everything is working itself out for you. And so that's the secret to life. And that is how you can change your life, by changing your perspective and by changing your thinking about life itself. So that wraps up the video. Enjoy the video. Do leave a like and subscribe as we are on the road to a million subscriber, guys. So once again, show up and I'm out. I'll see you guys for the next video.